listen. Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Get on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
All right, there's no human being on the planet I'd rather be talking to right now than Daniel Bard. Hello.
Same here, Rob. Same here.
All right. So as we are taping this, you are home in parts unknown. We don't want to reveal your address. But you are home with your family because as the world of baseball knows by now that you're going to have surgery on your elbow. So first off, before we get into the what's what and how you've sort of landed here, and then we get into all kinds of good stuff that makes you feel good, and we're here to build you up. We're here to build you up, Daniel. Let's go. We're here to build you up. But being around your family must help that, right?
It does, yeah. I mean, when I found out about a little over a week ago that I was probably going to have surgery, I was like, am I going to go back with the team? Or, they were on the road. There was really nothing rehab wise that I could do that's going to, change the fact that I'm having surgery. So I kind of was like, all right, I'm going to get home, at least, even if it's just for a few days. I hadn't seen my family in a few weeks. So that's kind of how we think as ball players. It's like, if I have a job to do, I'm going to do it. But take away that job, like, I'm going to get back and, spend some time with my kids.
And what was your kids' reactions when they saw you?
We surprised them. I didn't, my wife knew I was coming, but she didn't tell the kids. So that was fun. They understand baseball, but they don't really get, a lot of people don't get it, right? Like, sometimes you're hurt, you stay with the team. Sometimes you get hurt, you head home for a little while. So I showed up, and my oldest son, who's 8, he's like, where I was putting him to bed that night, and he was like, Dad, so you're getting surgery. Does this mean you're retired? And I was like, I don't know, buddy. I'm going to get the surgery. We're going to rehab it and see what happens. Maybe, maybe not. And he goes, because I really, really, really want a dog, which is not what I was. I thought he was going to say, really, really want you to retire so you can be home more. Or he was going to say, really, really, really want you to keep playing because I love watching you pitch. But he wants a dog.
I honestly, that's when you're saying that, I kind of tended to he's 8. So I was like, oh, well, he wants to run around the park. He wants to have, you keep playing or whatever it is. You never know, though. I mean, you just never, it is funny looking at through the eyes of an 8-year-old.
Oh, it's totally, especially an 8-year-old who grew up in it, like, he doesn't like he has buddies in the neighborhood who are way more obsessed with baseball, right? And like, I'll take him into the clubhouse, or we'll go out shag batting practice, and I have to remind him, like, how many other kids, he'll be complaining about something. I'm like, how many other kids do you see out here shagging? None. How many do you think would want to be doing it? All of them. And he realized it, but I have to remind him, like, this is not normal. Try to enjoy it. And they're good. For the most part, they're good. It's just they have, they're 6 and 8, and they have those moments.
It's great street cred. It's much like when every Thanksgiving when I could claim that I was related to a pilgrim. It's great. You take whatever street cred you can.
That's right.
So for you, how's it feel? Like, how's it? You've never sat in April. Actually, I take that back. You've had some uncertainty. We'll get to that in a second. But as an active player, you've never sat there, I don't think, in this situation, right? Watching Major League Baseball go by. No.
Yeah, not this time of year for sure. April's the time when you're supposed to be, getting ramped up, starting to feel back to normal, getting the groove of the season, and I'm kind of doing the opposite. So it's a weird feeling. Definitely would rather be pitching, big part of me would rather be pitching. But my career's had enough ups and downs where kind of take what's thrown at you and make the best of it. So that's what I'm trying to do, and that's why I'm taking advantage of these couple, week or two at home before the surgery, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I want to get into sort of like getting your head around it, and using your past experiences to get your head around it. But first, I want to go through the timeline of, just in case people don't know. And I know that I saw you out in Arizona, and that you had the knee thing. You throw, you have the knee thing, you have the procedure on the knee, and your elbow. Every time I talked to you, was sort of like up and down. It seemed. You showed me a really gross picture of your elbow, which was, I don't even know what that was, but it had nothing to do with anything. It was just, if nothing else, you could just say, yeah,
it was a fluke thing. So yeah, so the knee surgery was about 2 months ago. Just meniscus cleanup happened right before spring training, so that kind of threw a wrench, and that was what made me miss spring training. But long before that, going all the way back to go back a full year to the end, kind of the end of 22, I was dealing with some elbow soreness in the same area on the flexor tendon, and kind of tried to pitch. I think ramped up fast for the WBC. That wasn't great for it. I think it affected my velocity and command all year last year, which I never got my velo kind of up to where I was the year before. So it was definitely affecting me the whole year. But I was mostly, I could pitch without pain. It was just get really sore afterward, which I can deal with. And it wasn't until like the last maybe 4 to 6 weeks of the 23 season last year where it started hurting on a lot of pitches. I'd get sharp pains in there and kind of a burning sensation after a throw. Didn't feel good. So I was on the IL, same issue. So I was treating that all off season, trying to get it right. We knew it wasn't fully torn, so it was like, hey, maybe some PRP shots will help. So we did that and rehabbed it like crazy, and I think we did everything we could. The knee happened kind of in the middle of that build-up process, which I thought was maybe a blessing in disguise, give me a little more time. It ended up being possibly a good thing, but then when I got the knee healed up and started ramping my throwing back up, back to full speed, I was on the mound. I was throwing full effort, and it just, every time on the mound, it would hurt a little worse and a little worse. And I got to the point where I couldn't even get through a 20 pitch bullpen. So, without, good enough pain to stop me from throwing. So, that's when we decided to take another look at it. And, turns out it was getting worse.
And did that surprise you how bad it was when you got the results?
No, it matched up with how I was feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, if I couldn't get through a bullpen, so you just kind of, I've thrown enough baseballs in my life to know when this is soreness, this is what you can pitch through, and then there's pain, and there's stuff that you can't throw through.
So, we've obviously talked about the having to overcome stuff in the past and having to deal with adversity. There's that initial, we talked about, the WBC thing and going through that, and okay, here we go again. This was, I guess, not a here we go again, but okay, here's another mountain to climb. Climbing mountains are never fun, especially, when you're sort of eyeing, let's go, I'm ready to go, I figured it out. And, whether this is my last year or a couple years or whatever it is, I'm ready to go. But when you get that news, do you sort of resort back to what you're talking about that mindset of having, hey, I know how to deal with adversity? Or is that, how did that work, that initial feeling?
Yeah, I think it helped that, like I said, I've been dealing with it for a year and a half. And there was a lot of times when I thought I might be very close to having to have it operated on. So I kind of had a long time to mentally prepare for it, so I got kind of eased into it, you know. Definitely at the end of last season, my last outing, I was in a lot of pain, and kind of knew that I was like, that might be my last pitch as a Rocky. Something went through my head. I literally, as I was walking off the mound, I think there was like 5 days left in the season, maybe, but it hurt so bad. My velo was dropping throughout the inning. I think I started the inning at 96, finished at 91. I knew something, and it just wasn't right, and it hurt. So, yeah, you do what you can. And, the way I look at it, like, I've been super fortunate in my career to get to this level, to lose it and get back to this level, and then have a nice run here at the end too. Like, I've been really fortunate. I just gotten to where enjoy what you can, and enjoy what's thrown at you, and make the best of it. That's what I try to do.
Do you, even in the last, what's been a week or whatever, in the last week, have you, again, I've never gone through something like this, so I don't know. So in the last week, do you gradually remind yourself of that? I know I'm playing like psychologist, I apologize, psychiatrist, whatever. But I am like genuinely curious about how, because Daniel, because I've seen, especially this year, which we can get into, like all these injuries in baseball, but I see a lot of these guys. Not just pitchers, a lot of these guys who you do everything you can to get to this point, and then all of a sudden in April, the first month of the season, it's ripped away from you, and you have to pivot. Like, how for a player, how long does that take to get your head around?
Yeah, I think if I was younger, it'd be really tough. If I was in my mid-20s, it's harder to pivot. Like I said, I think you get a little older, been through some things, got a family, got kids at home. Like, it just changes your perspective and makes you a little maybe more adaptable to things like this. Doesn't make it easy or fun, but yeah, I think the most frustrating part was, like, before I was at 100% throwing, when it started really bothering me. My sinker and my slider felt so good, like, just command, feel, all that stuff. I was like, this is it. Like, it's back. Even if there's a little discomfort, I'm going to be way better than I was last year. I had an excitement to get back on the mound, get back in games, and then the physical side creeps up, and it doesn't allow you to throw. So it is what it is. That's the frustrating part. But yeah, I think if you're a younger guy, 24, 26, like, you're ready, attack this season, and then you come down with a major arm injury. Yeah, it's a blow for sure.
Yeah, I don't mean I don't mean to be like a downer. I'm just curious about.
No, I mean, I've seen guys get hurt, and get the news that they're having surgery and break down in tears. Definitely happens. And I don't blame them. You put that much work in, and then you're like, hey, you got to put it on hold for 12 to 15 months. Like, that's a long time for a lot of people.
So when you said when your 8-year-old asked you about moving on, is it something where you talk to Dr. Meister's doing the surgery, right? He's doing the surgery.
That's the plan. Yep.
Yeah. So Dr. Meister said, this is what we have here. This is what the recovery looks like. I mean, it's and then you just go from there. Is that what it is?
Yeah. I mean, it's not Tommy John, but kind of similar.
Is it the brace?
No, mine's the flexor tendon. So my UCL is actually good, but similar timeline, I think. It's actually a similar rehab type program, just a different area of the elbow. But yeah, I mean, it's 12 months, puts me at, around May 1st next year, being able to pitch in games. So I'm going to go through the rehab.
Let's go. I'm pumping you up now. Let's go.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go through it, try to get ready to pitch and see how we feel, see where my family's at a year from now, and make a decision at that point.
You got to buy a dog. You got to buy 3 dogs, and then
Possibly. Yeah.
You never. I mean, I know that you had soreness and stuff, but you correct me if I'm wrong. You never really had. Have you ever had a surgery before?
I had thoracic outlet
Thoracic outlet. I'm
surgery.
sorry. Yeah.
2014.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. Well, anyway, all I know is that if when you do on May 1st, it's boom, all the new pitches, all the new repertoire, everything's going to come together. There it is. It's going to be it's going to be a great story on top of a great story. And if it doesn't, you know what? You're still, doesn't matter. Your son has a dog.
might be on a big league mound, might be in a batting cage at a little league field. Yeah, but it'll be good stuff either way.
It'll be absolutely good stuff, and also there'll be a book party involved. Anyway, right. So it's gonna be good stuff. So I don't want to. Again, I'm here to hype you up, and I don't know if what the next topic is going to hype you up, but it's going to change the conversation, because I think that we've always enjoyed talking about the great game of baseball. And when it comes to, I'm going to ask you to do what I asked Kenley Jansen to do a couple days ago, which is, and I don't think this is going to be about the pitcher's injuries and injury stuff and like the great conversations going on in baseball. I asked Kenley, I said, power rank the reasons you think this sort of epidemic is going on. You're a thoughtful guy. There's a lot of this, we can't lean on science or analytics or certainty. We can only lean on sort of what we think. What do you think if you're going to power rank it?
I think you have to. I mean, you got to try to lean on science, right?
Well, what I'm saying is that some of the participants in the power ranking would be things that, like, for instance, the pitch clock, right? So it's like cell phones. Who knows how they're going to impact us 30 years from now? I don't know. Like, we have an educated guess. That's why I say,
so let me list the things first that I think are an impact. Okay. And then I'll try to put them in order, but I don't know if I can do that.
Okay.
But you got the pitch clock.
Yeah.
I do think that's a factor. You got the crackdown on grip enhancements, let's call it. And then you got, let's just call it like the emphasis on maxing out your velo and movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spin rates, whatever you want to call it, but you're trying to make your stuff as nasty as possible, and that's kind of a league-wide, baseball-wide thing. What else we got? And then you got, I think the other piece is kind of the usage of guys. Mm-hmm. So starters, are not expected to throw 200 innings anymore. Let's try to throw 140 dominant innings. Relievers, kind of the same thing. Like, we'd rather have you throw maybe less innings, 55 innings, but you better be throwing every pitch as nasty as you possibly can. Don't save anything so that you can throw 75 outings. Like, we'd rather have you really good for 55. And you see that with, the Dodgers, I think, are really good at that. They'll take, like, maybe an older guy who's coming off an injury, and they'll be like, hey, we're going to try to get 45, like, really good innings out of you. They'll put you in, let you start on the IL, limit your exposure and stuff like that, which I think can be a good thing. But so yeah, I think those are, and then and just the emphasis on the speed. Then we go back to that. The emphasis on maxing out your velocity and your stuff. That starts in Little League now. I've seen it with my friends' kids and stuff, in the off season, travel ball, like the way they train. really, so you got like 13-year-old kids throwing weighted balls, right? Some of them doing it. Oh yeah. Some of them doing it properly and following a program and good coaching. Some of them just chucking the hell out of it and saying, I hope I throw 100 one day. So, part of that is I think the youth training has gotten better, but not everywhere. But I think one thing it has done everywhere, it's gotten more intense and more aggressive. So you got middle school, high school kids getting really strong really early, which that in itself is probably a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's making guys move better, move faster at an earlier age, putting more stress on the arm at an earlier age.
Mm-hmm.
Taking more practice reps, not just to command their fastball down and away, which is what I kind of grew up doing, but taking more practice reps to see how many times I can touch my max velo, whatever that is. So I mean, I threw a ton as a kid. Like I threw more than any of my friends. I played catch, I'd be bored, I'd go throw balls into the net in my yard, but I'm trying to think back. I don't think a lot of those throws were like fully max effort.
But also you were Daniel, you were I'm guessing you were sort of a unicorn maybe with the kids you grew up with, where I said, okay, Daniel throws this hard, but little Johnny across the street is never going to happen. But the problem is now everybody is involved in baseball. They're seeing the YouTube clips of little Johnny across the street throwing 90 at the age of 13, and then their parents are like, hey, Billy, why aren't you doing that? We got to find a way for you to do that because we got to keep up. I mean, the social media and that element of it, I think, and in AAU, I mean, that the competitiveness of this is what I'm saying is this isn't going away because of that.
No, and I'm not here to criticize like youth baseball everywhere. I think it's just kind of the natural evolution. But like you said, I think social media, there's all these accounts you can follow, to get drills, hitting drills, throwing drills. And, there's dads and there's coaches out there that just take everything they can and throw it all at their kid. And some of it'll work. And some of those kids will turn out to be pretty good. Some of them will get ruined by it. But I guess what I'm getting at is, I don't think this is a 1 or 2 year thing. I do think the clock, the sticky stuff has had an influence on the kind of the immediate thing at the big league level. But I think you're also seeing like guys in their mid 20s, Strider, guys like that. Like he's been training at a high level probably since he was 14 years old. So he's already had a Tommy John. So we're getting a whole crop of young big leaguers right now that are they came up in this system, right? Of like year-round baseball. I grew up playing basketball and golf and other stuff too. Like I definitely loved baseball, played it spring, summer, and part of the fall. But I took a long chunk of the year off where I didn't touch a baseball and I was playing basketball. I know some kids still do that, but I think there's a lot of kids, they hit middle school, high school, and they just lock down on baseball. And they're throwing year round. Which, if it's not monitored closely by someone who knows what they're doing, it's a recipe for, breaking down the road. So I think that's got to be it. It's like the incoming crop of big leaguers the last couple of years, they grew up in just a much more intense training environment than I grew up in.
Yeah. I sort of, when I do my power rankings, that's the one I come back to. It's been this way, and it's power, for lack of a better term, whether you're snapping off a breaking ball harder, whether you're throwing with velocity harder, and really, even hitting, like you just, here, whoever hits the ball the farthest, that's the guy who's going to get noticed. And the thing is now the velos, yeah, you can't get in the door. Like when you're trying to get on the radar of scouts, you can't get in the door by throwing like Rich Hill,
No. And that's funny. I talked to my wife about this a couple of days ago because, like I said, we're just kind of in the world of getting into the world of youth baseball with our kids. And she's like, I think like the whole social media, YouTube, Instagram, you can get like pretty famous and pretty rich doing a lot of things just by being a good self-marketer, right? Like in a lot of areas, right? I think that applies to baseball. So if I can make myself look really good in a video, I can put up a high number on a throw or a exit speed on a bat. If I can look good and then also have all the bling and all the stuff like all the kids do now, if I can do all that, and then maybe I can become rich and famous as a baseball player, and that's just not how, like, it's not how it works to get to the major leagues. Like there's a point where that just doesn't matter anymore. But the good news is there's the Savannah Bananas now, and you can go play for them.
Exactly.
So, and there's probably going to be more of those pop up. So, there's going to be alternative routes. Yeah, if you're a good self-marketer and you have a little bit of baseball talent, like there might be avenues in the future.
Well, listen,
which is,
yeah, I saw a girl jumping, like she makes a living off of jumping rope. So
I can't imagine why.
so I think that, well, and the other part about that is not only can you potentially make money just on being an outlier, like just having that unique presentation on Instagram or whatever it is, but there's scouts who now will get the attaboys from, hey, we discovered this guy on Instagram. Look at how clever I am. I uncovered this guy wearing, throwing like this guy in Uganda who has cinder blocks running up a mountain. I was like,
wow, the catcher?
Yeah, the catcher.
Yeah, I saw that story. That was kind of cool.
So that kid, and I all credit to, I wish I remembered his name, all credit to him, but he got the invite to the Baseball United showcase off of doing that. And I mean,
yeah, that's great. You might get an invite, you might get
I know
a little attention, but you still got to do it at the end of the day. Like you got to be good, and you got to put up numbers, and yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. This isn't the path to ultimately getting to where you need to go, but this is the carrot. So anyway, it's a good point. It's a good point by your wife.
It's a really good point. Yeah. She makes a lot of them.
So we'll put power Instagram, and Kenley was pitch clock number one.
Yeah, I mean, there's part of me that wants to say that, and I do think it does play a role. I think there's this like we call it like micro recovery. So the recovery from going from 20 seconds between pitches to now I think we average it's like 8 or 9 seconds between pitches. Even though the clock, people don't run the clock out on every pitch. They're actually pitching faster than the clock. So there's that. And then the quick innings too, I think for starters, if you have a 30 pitch inning in the first and you go sit down and then your opponent has an 8 pitch inning, you just got like 4 minutes to catch your breath and to let your arm let the blood circulate back through your arm and let those muscles it's like it's not the recovery you get between outings, but there's like same reason you couldn't go out and throw 100 pitches straight at game speed.
Right.
But you can do it if you break it up into 7 innings, you need those 10 to 15 minute breaks are what allow you to throw that 100 pitches. So now those breaks are getting shorter and shorter. And I don't think that's good for starters either.
Right. Well, you said, how much science is incorporated, but it's another thing in the Kenley conversation was the oxygen. And this is true. What you're saying is true. Like you need to breathe in order to replenish, the blood to restore, and you aren't allowed to breathe as much normally as you were used to, especially, and maybe in a few years, your bodies are acclimating themselves to it, but this isn't how baseball was 3 years ago. So that's not how most of these people were trained. They're trying to, and this better than I do, But I see guys, the days of Roger Clemens running around the field in a rubber suit, for 4 miles are gone. Now it's quick bursts, sprints, that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's definitely changed. I don't think we've run poles in a decade. So
That's crazy.
yeah.
And then the grip enhancements, which I like how you phrase that. It's just for people who don't understand. It's simply that you have to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to grip the ball harder because you don't have the grip enhancements, right? So that's obviously
Yeah, no,
pressure.
and I understand why they did that. I mean, it was an existing rule that they just weren't enforcing. And I think it got with the spider tack, it got to a point where, yeah, I know technically it's all cheating, but it got to the point where guys were only using that to make their stuff as nasty as possible. I was so sticky, I didn't even know how to. I tried to play catch with it one day before they banned everything and couldn't. I was like, I can't do this. But just the lighter stuff, the dab of pine tar on your glove, the little bit of sunscreen and rosin, mix them together. Yeah, that can get tacky, but I think most guys were using it. Like I initially was introduced to it when I was in the minor leagues coming up, and I couldn't consistently replicate my feel of the baseball in different environments. So like a super dry environment in Arizona, Colorado, California, the ball to me felt completely different than it did in Atlanta, Baltimore, Boston in the summer. And it drastically changed the shape of my pitches. And it wasn't because I could actually get grip with some sweat and some rosin, right? Then you go to a dry environment or a really cold environment where you're not sweating at all, and you can't replicate it. The ball it's like a cue ball. It's like a powdery cue ball. And it's still that way. Like you go to Colorado, it's hard to grip the baseball there. We got the dryness, the desert dry with the cold weather for a lot of the season on top of it. So it's like double dry, because you're not sweating a lot there. It's hard to replicate consistency with just rosin. It's still an issue. So yeah, you're gonna have to grip the ball harder, and I can't imagine that doesn't impact it.
So all these things we were talking about are guys, when this stuff starts mounting up, these injuries, is this a conversation? I would imagine it is in the clubhouse of like having, I don't know if anyone's saying, okay, everyone go around power rank this stuff, but it must be in when the guys that you were around, people talking about this stuff, right?
Yeah, we talk about it. I mean, I just came from Arizona where we had Herman Marquez, Antonio Senzatella, and Lucas Gilbreath all coming back from Tommy John. And then I'm there rehabbing my knee, and my elbow goes out. So yeah, it's a thing where we were talking about it a lot. And just Gilbreath's a guy you should have on here. He's younger guy. Actually, he's not that young anymore, but lefty, really good reliever when he's healthy. But he's interesting because he's a super smart guy. He's just finishing up his Tommy John rehab, and he's just got a lot of interesting thoughts on the causes of this. He runs his own facility in Colorado in the off season, and he deep dives into the science of pitching. So
All right. Well,
he'd have a lot better answers than me on it.
No. Well, you've had excellent answers, but I officially am inviting him. Tell him we pay in T-shirts and smiles. So
Absolutely.
yeah. All right. Well, speaking of smiles, you brought a smile to all of our face by hearing your voice, seeing you, and hearing the story about your son wanting a dog. So
I do have one thing.
Yeah.
So speaking of Gilbreath, I call him Gilly.
Yeah.
Gilly and I were rehabbing together in Arizona. We started a little project together. So we're both really into hunting, kind of different types of hunting. He likes the duck and elk hunt in Colorado. I'm southeast, more like whitetail, turkeys and stuff. But we're trying to kill all this time, right? Because you're rehabbing, you do a couple hours of work in the morning, and you have the whole afternoon to kill. So we started a podcast, kind of based off of he has an outfitting company that he runs out of Colorado called Major League Hunts.
Okay.
So it's a hunting podcast, but it's hosted by me and Gilly,
Oh,
two major league pitchers,
I see.
telling our what's that?
I had no idea. Like, why?
Oh, it like came out. It kind of came out of nowhere. Like 3 weeks ago, we've got a few episodes recorded. I think one of them's live. So, Major League Hunts podcast. Check it out.
Is it on YouTube? Like, is it?
I think we're on Spotify and iTunes right now.
Okay, Major League Hunts.
That's it.
All right. Well, it's just the podcast world is one big happy family, usually, but in this case, it's listen. We have our sister podcasts, and now we have a new sister or brother, Major
There you
League
go.
Hunts. I like that. Is it you have fun doing it?
Oh, it's a blast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I prefer to talk about hunting over just about anything. So,
Yeah. Well,
um,
that's how guys usually are.
yeah, we're gonna try to get some other players on there, guys, from around the league who are into hunting, and just kind of interview them, tell their stories and why they love it, what kind of hunting they like to do, and just and kind of show fans of either hunting or baseball or both, and just show the other side of some guys.
Who would be right now you say, okay, this is the guest that I want to have on.
Yeah.
Who would be who's the guy?
So we've made a list. Our teammate Charlie Blackman is near the top, but he's pretty easy. I think we should be able to get him.
He's been
I
on
know
this
him pretty well.
podcast. Okay.
There you go. So
Yeah.
Chuck is one. But the kind of the pinnacle of guys, like if you just look at like who's a really good player that also likes to hunt, is Mike Trout.
Ooh, he was just on. I wish I knew. I just had him on.
Trout's a big deer hunter. A lot of people don't know that because he's from New Jersey, but apparently they have deer up there. But he hunts. I think he has some other places too.
Okay.
So I know Mike a little from our Team USA time together. So I might we're working our way toward a guest list.
How are you? Is it? I know that I'm getting to the weeds. What is it? Once a week, or once a month, or what is it?
I think we have like 5 recorded, so I think we're gonna put out one a week for a while, and then it might be a little tough in season. I'm gonna be rehabbing. Gilly's gonna be pitching, but we're gonna do the best we can to get one out every week or two.
Most importantly, do you have a logo and do you have gear?
I believe we have a logo. The gear is actually he has some gear from his outfitting company, which shares the same name.
Okay.
So we have some, but we need more.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will do everything I can in every fabric of my being to help Major League Hunt. So yes.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Well,
it's a fun little
yeah, I love it. I love, as I said before, like you said, I love talking hunting. Like this is players love talking about everything else but baseball most of the time.
Yeah.
It's Mookie.
It's anybody who's, I think we all love baseball, but it's anybody who's, it's something's their job. You can love it. You do like talking about it, but you end up talking about that one thing so much. Like, oh, I have these other interests too, and I want to dig into that.
Oh, like I said, I've told this a bunch of times in the last 6 months, but I sat down with Mookie and I've interviewed. I used to do podcasts with Mookie back when he was with the Red Sox. Every year in June, we would sit down and be like, okay, one time, and it was lit at 26 minutes every time, and we would land, and it was like, okay, we'll go through the contract stuff and all of that. Whatever. But, sometimes when we start talking about basketball, it was, here we go. And then, so I saw him with the Dodgers, sat down with him, and 20 minutes, all we did was talk about podcasting. And it was like a totally different.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, next time you talk to Papelbon, put it in his ear. See if we can get him on.
I'll see him today.
Okay. Throw it out there. Say, I started a podcast. And if he shows a little interest, shoot me a text.
Just have the lawyers ready.
Let me know.
Well, yeah, I'll have a lawyer.
Well, I don't know. It'd be interesting though. It'd be fun. It'd be fun. And I know he's got some good stories.
Oh, but he would be great for that. Yeah. All right. Consider it done. All right. Awesome.